Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I will try to be a little bit louder even though I've been sick for the past 7 days or so, and I put my mic a little bit higher. If I put the volume over there and the mic volume a little bit higher, it's gonna start sounding like so we don't do that. So I apologize for this. I told you, and it was not only I who told you this, but many others, that Zelensky is a, how should I put it, a tyrant, or has some, like we all do, some traits of a tyrant. The problem is if you can release your trait in a certain environment, because you can be a tyrant if you don't have power, then your tyrannical behavior will not be directed towards anybody but yourself. But if you have power, you're gonna be a tyrant with all the people around you, or at least you will have potential ability to express your tyrannical behavior. Now what happened? This Zelensky and his guys over there in Ukraine were, they were accused of being Nazis. They were accused of being, tyrants and anti-democracy and anti-free speech, against freedom of religion and all that. To a certain extent, there are signs over there. There are signs, and for instance, with Azov battalion, now that is increased its numbers. Then you had the problem with Russian Orthodox Church, from Moscow, that operates in Ukraine. I can't remember the denomination, but they barred that because they found some papers that would glorify Russia or something, and some agents, they barred them and say, no, you're not going to have that denomination in Ukraine. Then you had 2014, 2015, the same government, not Zelensky, but the same government who took power after that coup d'etat in 2014, instituted some laws or some policies, limiting the use of Russian language even in the East Ukraine, where there are majority Russians in school. They closed, they forbade, they make it illegal for some political party to activate. Zelensky and his group, they also, limited the mass medias, who is allowed to operate and so on. To a certain extent, I understand that, because once you are at war, you can't allow any idiot to say whatever he or she will say, because it's national security. I understand that, but the problem is, you as a leader, which in this case Zelensky supposedly is, he has to step in and be the moderator, the person who stops how far tyranny goes. Because once you realize that you can go without any consequences, you're gonna keep going, and that's gonna be too obvious. Well, I think this time he went way too much, too far, and he's called out finally by some organizations from European Union, which are his supporters. So, how bad must you be or behave in order for those guys who are your supporters say, you know what, I think you're just infringing the freedom of the press right there, and you are kind of turning tyrannical. So let's see how Zelensky will react to that, but let's see what the mass media, these organizations, Western organizations from the West, had to say about Zelensky. This article comes from The Hill from January 1st, 2023. You find these articles everywhere, which is very strange, because usually they cover for this weasel and his group. And now it seems like he touched something that can't really, it can, but at least they, good for them, bring it in the forefront of the debate, social debate. And let's see. The Hill. Zelensky signs controversial law expanding government power to regulate media. So remember, this is from The Hill. All right. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky signed into law a controversial statute expanding the government's power to regulate media groups and journalists in the country. Zelensky signed the legislation on Thursday over the objections of media unions and press freedom organizations that warned it will have a chilling effect on free speech. Well, that's exactly what he wants. Under the new law, the National Television and Radio Broadcasting Council, whose members are appointed by the President's administration and by members of the Parliament, will have broader authority over Ukrainian media organizations and journalists. That means they could be more tyrannical. If you have more authority, more power. The regulatory agency can effectively shut down news sites that aren't registered, according to the Kiev Independent. In a statement last month, the National Union of Journalists of Ukraine said the bill passed a, and I'm quoting, threat to press freedom in the country, end quote. And I'm quoting again, such powers are clearly excessive, end quote, the organization wrote, and I'm quoting again, no one has yet managed to tame freedom of speech in Ukraine. It won't work this time either. So you can see he's placed on the enemy side. They're not on the same team anymore. Zelensky's administration has been accused of suppressing press freedom. The first ordered the drafting of a new law to boost media regulation in 2019, so it was even before the war. That year he entered office. The law was passed along with several other new state statutes lawmakers say are required in order to become eligible for European Union membership, which Ukraine applied for last year. You're not going to go in that one, I guarantee you that. Why? Not like this anyway. The bill for the legislation, which the Ukrainian parliament passed on December 13, was watered down after mounting criticism. When you hear that you have to water it down, that means your initial bullshit was there. So that's actually how much you thought that you are able to get away with. That's how much. And these guys said, well, no, you can't do that. So mounting criticism, they lowered it. So their intention is way above what these guys try to make the Ukrainian government not pass. They already voted for. So I don't know what's going to happen. Previous draft versions handed the National Television and Radio Broadcasting Council a greater ability to impose fines on media groups, revoke licenses from printed media, and block online outlets from publishing restricted information. When the draft versions were released, several international media organizations voiced opposition to the law, including the Committee to Protect Journalists and the European Federation of Journalists. Ricardo Gutierrez, General Secretary of the European Federation of Journalists, told the New York Times that the law still contradicted European press freedom standards. Now, a guy from the European Union to say that it contradicts the European press freedom standards, that means this should be pretty bad. Because those guys in Europe, again, they get you in jail if you say certain things, if you deny certain things, if you ask questions about certain subjects. So about freedom of speech in Europe is as free as, I don't know. Anyway, and I'm quoting again, Ukraine will demonstrate its European commitment by promoting a free and independent media, not by establishing state control of information, Gutierrez said. So we'll see if this, I would say, people inclined to do whatever they feel like. I think they have the trait. We all have it. The problem is the environment. Some people say, well, give someone power and see what he does with that and so on. But we'll see. I suspect nothing will happen for a little while, and then if they are serious in getting into Europe, then they probably change. But this could also be a bargaining chip against the Western countries, in a way that you do something and you threaten them by that. Say, see, this is our new law here. And the guy's gonna start up and say, what is this? Okay, you want me to change it? Give me that. But you created the problem in the first place, you know what I mean? So you create an artificial issue by your behavior, you know, by your decision. And then you say, well, you want me to get rid of that and water it down? Then you gotta give me more weapons, more money, more ladies of the night, and all that. That's another method, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. They will use this as I said, was, you know, you gotta give us and we're going to do it. Remember, they did not see anything wrong with it so far. Otherwise, he would have vetoed it, right? Zelensky. They would have not come up with it, but they didn't. Anyway, this is Ukraine, and this is how much we are allowed to find out about what's going on over there. When you hear that Zelensky regime or their security forces caught some or arrested some collaborators, nah, I believe that as 1%. Why? Because that's a lot of personal score settling in this kind of situations, like it was in Stalin's, the Georgian dictator of Soviet Union. The same. I think that Stalin killed 20 million people because he knew 20 million people. No, the policy was used by humans that had the ability and the power to settle scores, to get properties, eliminate that, rape that, do that. That's a lot of books about that, okay? I know it's politically incorrect to have them in certain countries. In Europe, for instance, there are certain kind of areas where you can't have certain kind of books because it's the unapproved, I don't know, version of the events. And you can't question them whatsoever. You can question other things. You can question if the Pope is alive, or if the Pope is, I don't know, a homosexual or something like that. You can go outrageously. You can attack whomever you want. But when you attack that little, you know what I mean, then you go 5 years to prison, probably in Germany. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.